episode_number_23. The executive desk. That said, he went to the bar. His gaze followed that of Jackie. He looked away and took a sip of the orange juice in front of him. After a long time, he was sitting alone in a bar with a woman. He was taking another sip from the glass in his hand, when Jack came back with 2 glasses of champagne. "And quat? I don't drink, and quat?" he reminded her with a start as he placed a glass in front of her. "It's a champion," Jackie said to him, smiling. "Isn't champagne wine?" He took out a cigarette from the cigarette case lying on the table and lit it with the help of a lighter. Jackie leaned forward and took out a cigarette stuck in his mouth with great ease. He went to see her. She was holding the same cigarette in the elbow of her right hand and holding a glass of champagne in her left hand and was smiling. He took out another cigarette from the cigarette case. "Let's imagine." He was shocked once again at Jackie's offer. "I don't think so." He took a cigarette and held the lighter. "It is not coming," which was a laugh. "I don't like it." He smiled. "Do you ever drink alcohol?" Jackie asked. "A long time ago," as he confessed. "Champagne?" Jackie said with fake surprise. He also said with an unimpressed face. How could she claim that this man could have directed anyone to his side, and that too in a bad way? "Your champagne. Which reminded me once again. And quat? You can have it. And quat?" He raised his glass in response. "If you used to drink, what is the evil in it now?" He used to drink to get the favor. When the favor was over, he also drank the wine. She laughed uncontrollably at his words. He looked forward and looked into her eyes and said, "Do you know that I feel a strange attraction to you?" He was smiling, as if he was saddened by his sentence. "Zahe Nasib," said in reply. Jackie put his hand on the table in a big imperceptible way. He wanted to remove it but could not remove it even if he wanted. They are both silently looking into each other's eyes. Then Jackie said, "Do you believe in one-night stands?" Was the answer immediate. "Absolutely. Times 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 times, times 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 times, times 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 times." Anderson Cooper was going to do a program about the rainforests in the Congo 2 weeks later. After he got basic information about Ibaka's interviews in English and European newspapers and the campaign for the survival of pygmies through a member of his team. What was the connection? And today Ibaka too. Cooper. A secret meeting was held and Ibaka was overjoyed. "I didn't think it could be done so quickly." He was meeting with the logo of K-Channels from his business in Washington and was torn between hope and despair. Ibaka had no idea that he would be met by Anderson Cooper. Lee Cal decided his life and death Kalia Tar. But it was just too late. There was a sense of urgency and ill feeling in those words, which he decided was suddenly from CNN. What should they do immediately? After arriving in ZAR, there was also concern over what Cooper had decided to do with the Ibaka and pygmies. So how many other journalists were there in the preparation of programming regarding this project? Ibaka has been spending time with him in Washington, considering the small fat channels and journalists as big and powerful. They're all already on Ibaka's list of people to watch, included. And this was the challenge that suddenly faced the people monitoring Ibaka. If that program wasn't intended to put Cooper ahead of Ibaka, the only solution for the CIA to keep Cooper from the professional press would be to keep Ibaka out of it at all costs. But it's Cooper Ibaka connecting. At this stage, when Mubadar and his team were preparing to leave for the Congo after having already done a lot of work on the issue, was the challenge that Ibaka immediately faced. And it came from Cooper's meeting. What did you worry about? And this problem was added when Ibaka left Washington for New York immediately after meeting him. And by the time Ibaka arrived at the Time Warner Center, after a heated 2-hour sit-down with Anderson Cooper, Ibaka was more excited than ever. When he walked out of CNN's Stows, it was the first time he thought of contacting Salah. During this on-camera question-and-answer session with Anderson Cooper, Salah Sikandar was repeatedly mentioned about how he listened to his concerns about the project and how he agreed with them. By going to these forests, the local people collecting facts from while conveying his admiration for Salah Iskander to Cooper, Ibaka had no idea that he was putting Salah Iskandar's life in danger. After leaving the building, Ibaka texted Salah in an overjoyed way towards Central Park. He wanted to tell him that he had gotten access to CNN. The text was very long and Salah was on his flight at that time, and after a few hours when he landed in Washington, all his contacts were under surveillance. Ibaka's last email was found by Salah Iskander after his death. But these people were found a few hours before the landing of the ship of Salah Iskander, who was deciding on the life and death of Ibaka. They do not want Ibaka's immediate death, they wanted his life for a few hours now. By keeping Ibaka in their custody, they wanted to close the case with him. Ibaka died of natural causes. The source Cooper's surprise meeting with Ibaka gave the CIA a boost, but Ibaka and Salah could not kill Donovan together. It was decided to just scare Salah for the time being. And the CIA did not realize that Hanui had decided to use the wrong strategy on the wrong person. A few hours later, Ibaka was stopped in a narrow and dark street in an area of Brooklyn where Ibaka was meeting a friend in a nearby building. The CIA believed that Ibaka was a solution for them that they could easily handle. It didn't happen. Ibaka had a big fight with the two men who suddenly stopped near him and showed him a revolver and tried to tell him inside the religion was in the world but wildlife was in his body. He had to defend himself. He used to do it himself, so he used to do it to other people as well. I don't know. It was Ibaka's bad luck. These two agents or the CIA. The revolver fell into Ibaka's hand while he was fighting, and then he didn't come and shoot at these two people. Let's go. Bullet 1. But before the second self-inflicted fire, he took out his revolver and fired 2 shots at Ibaka, which hit him in the chest. These firemen forced the passers-by to flee and one of them called the police. But before the arrival of the police, the two agents had fled after leaving the seriously wounded Ibaka in the street. The agent who was shot in the leg. He was conscious and escaped with Ibaka in the car. He informed his superior about the whole incident. Ibaka's condition was the second blow to the CIA that day. They wanted Ibaka's life for a few hours so that they could destroy all the things that would happen after Ibaka's death. In the case of C. Orlay and Ibaka will play. A few people contacted Ibaka before and offered him a blank check as a bribe to get him to walk away from the whole affair. But Ibaka's refusal did not turn into a confession. Denial is priceless. After the rejection of this offer, Ibaka began to worry for the first time that if he could not be bought, he might be killed. Theo has copies of these documents. The CIA also knew that if Ibaka kept a copy of the document with his friend in the US, Congo, or England, the CIA would take the document. There was some information. Those documents are stolen from everywhere and put in their places and documents. And Ibaka doesn't even realize that all the clues about this project are behind him. The tie was going. Currently there were only 2 people in the world who had those documents in their original form: Peters Ibaka and Salah Iskander. Ibaka was in a crisis of life and death, and Salah was going to die the next day. But the CIA's biggest challenge at the moment is how they can get Ibaka's signature. As long as they are urgently needed, so that he could play his lockers where his original documents were. Their practical strategy was that after getting these original documents, they eliminated Ibaka, but everything turned upside down. Plan A and Plan B had failed. CIA was to take over Plan C, but what they didn't know was that Ibaka had a plan that they never knew was going to happen. He found a will with his girlfriend in the Congo. Imam had no idea how long he had been or would remain in a state of unconsciousness, but when the unconsciousness began to wear off, he was the first to exist in a world of no choice. He began to search for the first time and the last time. She saw him before fainting in the operation theater. Even in his distress, he remembered that someone told him that he was a boy. Painless, he took Muhammad Hayman Iskander in his arms and kissed him. And then the kiss went away. He was extremely weak. And the reason was that he was born prematurely. He was 3 weeks old. Was it in the world before? In half sleep she was kicking her bed without realizing that the newborn baby could not sleep on her bed. His unconsciousness was ending and his memory was slowly coming back. The mind began to work. Gabriel. Anayi. Salah. She was a little confused. Imam tried to remember. How did she come there? The biggest concern for the CIA is Salah's family. Disappearing them was a task left to their own devices. Salah left for Washington that night. It happened that the next day Imam's gynecologist called him. Imam's examination date was 3 days later. His American doctor told him to bring him to the emergency that same day. No one cares guaranteed to go without Woods. As usual, she went to the hospital with Jibril and Anai. After doing her ultrasound, her doctor worriedly told her that the baby's movements were abnormal and that she would have to undergo tests and tests. I will have to take an injection. That Salah was not there. She used to always come there with him for such examinations. Did they keep him under surveillance? He was shifted to a room and the injections given to Imam were pain-increasing injections to keep Imam away from home and away from contact with Salah and any of his family members. The CIA had no better solution. That his child should be brought into action before the time of birth. Imam used to bring Pedi, Jabril and Anaye to the hospital room before the injection. At that time, she thought that she would go home after a few hours. The first concern was when she had pain. It started and the doctor also confirmed that maybe, in the reaction of the injection, he had to deliver the baby immediately to save his life. It was the first time when Imam was very upset. He did not understand whether to send the child away. His actor offered to help, but it was impossible for Imam. The extent of obsession with children. She was very careful when she adopted Jibril for the first time. Salah used to say that she was in love with Jibril, and he said yes. She didn't see the truth in front of Jibril. Anai, his son of 40 years always kept one with him as he was very big. Jibril did not have the habits of a normal child, but the intelligence was inherited, but he did not know the patience he learned from the Imam. It was a responsibility that shone on her innocent face. Was he used to observe everything with extreme silence? He used to remember Jibril, who was the elder of this house in the absence of Salah Iskander. Imam is very confused now. She wants her delivery to be postponed at least until Salah arrives in America and talk to her. Immediate vision would be restored. But at least she talked to him once before the rescue. The fear that always kept him in his custody was still there. And what if during the rescue he die? And this is what forces him to ask for forgiveness from Hoysala every time he goes to the operation theater. She was in love with him. She was sick in fear of death before the birth of Hameen. And this time she was many times more than before. Because Salah was away. She was alone and her child Kamsan. Her wish was fulfilled. Husky's pain was increasing and the doctor wanted to take him to the operation theater. Because the case was not normal, he had to do the operation. The Imam entrusted Gabriel with the responsibility of looking after his sister and told him to never touch her alone. Gabriel nodded obediently as always. This baby is in the lead, take care. 4-year-old Jibril comforted the baby in English. And from his comfort, a smile appeared on Imam's face even in this pain. He hugged Danu before going to the operation theater. What? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Someone on YouTube uploaded a video in which a black woman was seen in the back section of Brooklyn staring at 2 white women with a tail coming out of a passing woman. The video was made by a black 9-year-old boy living in this building with a handy cam from a window on the 2nd floor of a building very close to this location as part of a school project. A video was being shown. He recreated the fight that started in his street, incidentally but with great interest, thinking and commenting that he also owns the street fight that took place in this area. Peas as a distinguishing feature of the party. No. That street fight will end with Goliath killing. The CIA's bad luck was that the video was shot very close up and the faces of the 19 people in it were clearly visible. Drag 2 people to the black farm. There was an attempt to prevent it from entering the cow. But after failure in this attempt, he reconstructed the cow's number plate by zooming. Before handing over the video to the police, she uploaded the video to a website based on black celebrities in the US, and the website linked it to YouTube. But countless people protested. The video was broadcast from YouTube on news channels and then on international networks. Peter Ibaka is not difficult to find. He was quickly found. What was the storm on YouTube? He was the storm that came to the CIA headquarters with a simple and easy to understand operation. The one who puts shame and dishonor on the face of IO. Also, the US government and the World Bank were also stuck. This is what happened at this time. They wanted to kill him by pretending that it was an accident, and they wanted to do this in Washington where Alexander was present. And there was only one accident that day in Washington, which was replaced by an injured Peter Ibaka. Hospital management knew about Ibaka. His condition continued to deteriorate and the CIA could not ask him for any work even after taking him to his place from the hospital after the surgery. So now he was going to take the last job for which he was brought to Washington and for which the names of the injured and dead people of the accident were called again and again on the news channel. Also their passport-size photographs. The CIA was sure that this news on the news channel would definitely come to the knowledge of Salah, and he also believed that Salah would have to meet him. As it turned out to be true, Salah had seen the news, and he immediately went to meet him. Laptop from his room, including cleaning up everything that he thought of as work. Everything went as planned, but the result was not what he expected. That video was taken by him. No one could forget the facial expressions seen in this video. They could not change the identity of Ibaka, who died of injuries in the accident. The pictures of Ibaka on the news channels were not shown immediately after the accident as a seriously injured person. On maybe the CIA would have done it, and Ibaka would have been transferred from this hospital in Washington to New York immediately, but they made one mistake, not a third and a fourth. There were efforts to put out the fire soon began. They tried to delete the video from YouTube because they couldn't block it because it was causing a lot of noise for the alcoholic, but it kept getting upvoted. The links were deleted, and it fails despite the effort. She arrived in Congo from America. What could have been the cause of Ibaka's death? Who could have killed him? And why? Joe was the only interviewer who came to meet him in Washington. The name of Salah Sikandar was mentioned on every news channel in America. Failed. Sitting in his hotel room that night, he was watching the coverage of all these news channels. CIA was also watching, and all the people of the World Bank who had been sitting for 2 days to harass Salah Iskander. Seeing Peter's Ibaka being targeted in this video, Salah was convinced that his family was not alive that night. If those people could kill Ibaka, what would happen to him and his family? Tonight, if he was interested in anything, it was his family's life. And nothing else. Not even you. And the people doing this operation in CIA were thinking about only one thing that night: what to do with Salah Iskander. How did Kulwali shut down the language that used to create chaos in many government institutions, including the World Bank? Don't add to the freckles or they couldn't keep him in prison. Blackmailing him through the life of his family in Kinshasa. Life or death. Life. Death. Then the decision was made. But not by the CIA, but by the people of Congo. The role that 4-year-old Jibril played in the crisis faced by his family was one he would play many times in his life. After Imam left, Paddy suddenly thought that Imam asked him to get something from the house. Paddy thought that he would take the child with him instead of looking after him alone. Will bring back Jibril flatly refused to take her with him, recalling that Mimi had told him that they would be the same. They will not be taken along. Paddy remembered and didn't insist again. She knew Jibril. Even at the age of 4 years, that child used to listen to his father's words like a parrot, and there was a chance that he would come to someone else's words and ask any instruction of the Imam and Salah. Forget about Paddy went to see one of Imam's actor's assistants and went home immediately. In his absence, Anaya began to fall asleep. The actor's assistant slept for 2 years. Pick up the baby and put her on a bench. Jibril stopped him. He didn't want to leave the place with Anaya, where they were seated. The assistant was surprised and went back to his table. He saw an interesting child sitting on his chair. 2-year-old Anaya was sleeping with her head in the lap of Abu Gabriel. Was Paddy remembered and didn't insist again. She knew Jibril. Even at the age of 4 years, that child used to listen to his father's words like a parrot, and there was a chance that he would come to someone else's words and ask any instruction of the Imam and Salah. Forget about Paddy went to see one of Imam's assistants and went home immediately. In his absence, Anaya started to fall asleep. The cutter's assistant tried to pick up the 2-year-old girl who was rocking in her sleep and put her on a bench, and Gabriel stopped her. It was done. The assistant was surprised and went back to his table. He saw an interesting child sitting on his chair. 2-year-old Anai was sleeping with her head in the lap of Abu Gabriel. And that is endless. The son was watching the boy coming into the living room with his sister's head in his arms, giving him a smile and patting him on the head. And in response, the child's reaction made him understand that he did not like this carelessness, so the woman slept a second time and tried to put her finger in the sand of Anari. This time Jibril Seeker's hands are full of tenderness, he said in a whisper. She is sleeping. Oh, sorry. The American woman smiled at that. This woman opened her purse and took out a bar of chocolate from it and went towards Gabriel. No thanks. The answer came even before chocolate. Grew up. I have children's toys. This time, this woman took out a stuffed toy from a bag on the ground and raised it towards Gabriel. It was a last attempt to break the wall of his cold heart. Jibril looked at this toy and said to him very politely, "Please stop bothering us." For a moment, the woman was silent. It was as if she had been there. But she was not coming to close the door. Visits coming and going. How difficult was it to take 2 young children out of the house by sliding them? He can't force himself in front of so many people like Gabriel. Now she was waiting for the 4-year-old child to fall asleep. Then maybe they would be removed from the air somehow. That woman remained breathless for a while. He does not want to cause any harm to these businesses, he just wants to keep them under his supervision until the affairs of Salah in America are settled. When Anai woke up, she wanted to go to Rome. Paddy wanted to take her to Rome, so she asked Jibril to wait one more time, but he didn't. He was not ready to take the eyes off his eyes in any way. Paddy had to take the matter to the room as well. That woman also followed him to the room. And Jibril noticed the woman once again. "Why are you following us?" The woman, who was busy washing her hands in the wash basin, listened to the child's sentence, and as if she was lying on the bed, Paddy looked at the woman and smiled in an apologetic manner, as she did not agree with Gabriel's statement. This 45-year-old woman admired the 4-year-old child with a smile. She was holding a 4-year-old child for the first time. Paddy had left the house with Donovan, but the woman had not. She did not want to hear that sentence from this child once again. It would be better for her. Send us to send someone else in his place. PD could not see Imam after 2 hours because the doctor said he was not conscious. The operation went well, but he was still asleep and on medication. PD tried to match Mom's phone number over and over again, but failed every time. She wanted to inform him about her son and also inform him that her children are safe with them. Paddy tried to meet Imam again and again without Abney. The decision was being made. The actor gave him birth in Kuwait, but he did not have access to Imam. The reel was gone. Eyes tired from sleep. And in spite of the tension, Anai's hand was held and sat down. Because Mimi asked him to take care of Anaya. He also saw the baby boy that Mummy was going to take. But what Mummy said was not the only question that bothered Paddy. She was now busy contacting him through Salah's office in Kinshasa, but Salah had disappeared and the World Bank in the Congo was about to collapse. Within 24 hours of his death, Peter Ibaka became a hero not only to the pygmies of the Congo, but to the whole of Africa. This map has seen only sold-out rulers till date. This map has seen hero for the first time. Hero who gave his life. Ibaka was a peaceful activist and preacher all his life. But his will that became public after his death, he was the first in it. Sometimes in case of unexpected and unnatural death, Aksayo wanted to fight his people. To save this forest, he used to run white marbles, even if he had to do something for it. In his will, he gave the World Bank, AMRA. One of these other world powers was severely criticized. Making a mark, he said to wage jihad against all of them. They were not Muslims, but he was taking a comparative assessment of religion. And it was unfair to his people, and there is no better word for rebellion against oppression than jihad. He only addressed the pygmies and asked him to come out of the jungle and fight in the city, working in every office of the World Bank and other organizations. It was said to be a massacre. But tonight it wasn't just the pygmies who attacked NGOs like the World Bank at Ibaka's call. They were the hands of Congolese colonialism. From 500 years ago, there were people who were being exploited. Came that night in Kinshasa was one of the biggest riots in history, with no black farmers, only white farmers being killed. It was just a series. They didn't stop there. The residence of the World Bank was also attacked, killed and looted, and Salah Iskander's house was also in it. It was not Salah Iskander's house as it was planted. It was the house of the head of the World Bank that was destroyed by the mob that night. 40 people of the World Bank were killed in these riots. And these are not the people working in the lower positions, they were the senior and junior management of the World Bank. They are experts and famous people in their field. On the screen on the wall of the operations room at the State Department, World Bank and CIA headquarters, senior officials from 19 agencies say, simply, "We are in the Congo." They were watching the scenes of these riots, trying to save them, but immediately, anyone could jump into these conflicts in the Congo in a practical way. The loss of knowledge and money would be covered. But it would take a miracle to restore the reputation and name that was lost. Just before the outbreak of these riots, Anderson Cooper aired this off-camera session with Ibaka on his program. Until then, there was no idea what was going to happen in the Congo that night. In this session, Ibaka severely criticized the United States and the World Bank, and decided to attack the Congo. They were saying 9 times. No one else was stopping them. Peter Ibaka's last interview in Africa was heard on the big screen while Lugo was crying in stadiums and squares. It was which was forcing the bank to inquire about this project. And for not doing so, he wanted to blame the World Bank. Ibaka also talked about the threats to his life and said that the powers that want to kill him will also kill Alexander. Salah Iskander's name became a household name in Africa overnight after Peter's Ibaka. In Africa, this fame was the first time for a foreigner. And that foreigner used to watch it all on TV in his room in Washington. Then he repeatedly went out and called Pakistan Alexander in his family's bar. He was trying to find out. I wish he didn't find that name again, he thought. News channels are telling that the entire village, including the country head, was looted and there were deaths in many villages. The officer's wife was attacked and someone's child was killed. Watching all that on TV, he was very upset. Where are my children? He saw the form of the attendant and asked the first question after regaining consciousness. They will come to you in a little while. You have to be transferred from the hospital, the attendant said in an extremely polite manner. Imam tried to get up from the bed and cried uncontrollably. There was no skin in the wound area. It felt as if someone had plunged a dagger into his stomach. The attendant quickly stepped forward and helped him lay them down. What she brought? I don't have any injections. I have to see my child in Lagoana. This will ease your pain. Your condition is still not good. The attendant inserted the needle of the syringe into the glucose bottle. Imam took out a syringe stuck to the back of his hand. I don't need any medicine right now. I need to see my child and talk to my husband. This time she sat up, ignoring the pain of the wound, and shook the attendant's hand. She remained silent for a while and then quietly left the room. He returned half an hour later with Paddy, Jibril and Anai. The door of the room opened. Jabril and Anai came towards him making a noise, and they climbed on his bed and hugged him. 2 days later, the mother was being seen. After not seeing Imam for 2 days, strange delusions were coming in his mind about the death of the actors and seeing Abu Imam's well-being. He also could not remain emotional. Did you inform the principal? Imam asked Paddy as soon as he saw him. I have been trying to contact him every day, but his number is not available. There is no connection. Imam's mind was shocked. Total. What is the date today? The date Paddy gave was not the day he was brought to the hospital. He took the phone out of his bag and tried to call her. Signals in part, they didn't come. She kept looking at him. She checked all the chat apps and text messages on her cell phone, and there was nothing in it from yesterday till today. Before she asked Paddy, he told her about the riots in the Congo, and that their home had been attacked. The first moment was when Imam was confused about Salah. Peters. Ibaka was killed. What did Salah say? He was also in Washington. Paddy told him all the news that was going on the news channel. How Ibaka was killed and how he faced his death. She and him from the same time as missing Imam's hands were trembling. He thought that he had the greatest love in the world for Jibril, but now when Salah disappeared from his life in a strange way, his relief is gone. It was starting to happen. He touched Jibril and Anaye on the same bed and went out of the room to take the phone from the little boy while still in pain. He knew the place in the hospital, from where he could talk to her about her house being destroyed no matter whether he came home or not. The child became senseless in front of this one person who was his umbrella. That the attendant and PD tried to stop her, but she didn't stop. She came out in the corridor with her body looking like a barefoot. If the son was there, he wouldn't even get up from the bed in this condition. But the problem is that the son was not there. His body was cold. It was not the weather that made him shiver. It was fear that blood was pooling in the veins. His whole body was shaking like a leaf. Your husband is perfectly fine. You will talk to him soon. The Imam became silent and turned to the attendant's voice, and then the air started to melt like wax. The American government, along with the CIA and the World Bank, needed Salah at the same time. Power Game 1 became a main event. In Africa, the death of Agibaka could have saved Salah Iskandar's life. The decision was late, but it happened. The devastating results of this operation were not only in the CIA, but also in the World Bank. Salah was still watching news channels in the hotel room. A little while ago, after talking to his father, Salah's head started to hurt. What is next to existence? What was the question? Did you remember? Did you remember? Pain. And what is next to pain after so many years? Once again, those questions and answers started running in his mind. And what is next to nothingness? Did you ask him your question once again? Hell, what the hell and the world? He thought involuntarily. 2 days later, he woke up from the sleep of death like his cell phone. He heard music and that light. He thought he was dreaming. He had saved that music when Imam called him. Iska's smiley face on the cell phone. Iska's name. Salah thought he was in real heaven. He answered the call with trembling hands. But he couldn't say hello. That was what Imam said. Undecided. Uncome. Was. He could not speak. Breathing was a big thing. Walking on his feet was perfect. On the other hand, she was calling his name restlessly. Salah's whole being trembled. That voice was beating him. Napoleon. He wanted to cry but could not cry in front of her. He was a man. It was difficult to speak, but it was necessary to speak. Imam. He freed the name. Stuck in his circle. On the other hand, she was crying. She was a woman who could do this easily. She was crying silently. She was going through hell. Salah, who was crying without a voice, took off his shoes while listening to the Imam's hiccups and sobs in the middle of the room. Many years ago, he used to prostrate on a tawaf in the red light area in the absence of the Imam. Verily, Allah is able to do all things. He says and things happen. Beyond imagination, beyond expression. Verily, Allah is the greatest and the mighty. After taking one look at Hameen, Jibreel commented on the new addition to his family in 3 words, with great care and detail. To this little brother in a grand style she had been hearing about her arrival for months. After listening to Imam's words, she was more interested in seeing the fairy than her little sister, who visited her house every day. He was coming because he needed his brother. Or not. She asked Imam more about the fairy. Jibreel never asked about the fairy because he knew that Mummy was talking. They are not loved by had to be brought by Parry. By had to be brought from the hospital and he would have to go to the hospital by himself. And he also had to go to the hospital by car through the road where he was visiting Mummy. But he only gave this information. Anai kisseth a lonely I share not in front of the Imam. Does Mummy speak? Anai asked her. No, they don't talk, but you a little so they talk to you. He explained to his sister in a big way. That time at the American embassy inside was a small medical unit. The storm that came to his life passed by without even a single tear. Imam was calm after talking to his 7-year-old son. I talked to everyone and everything. Congratulations on Hameen's birth were received. Salah kept him unaware of everything. They could not have a long conversation on the phone. Salah asked him to relax. He told Imam that there was a problem with the signals and satellite. His relationship with him. No, he was worried. Imam spoke to him about Ibaka and he reassured him that everything is fine. He is not worried. His life is not in danger. He is in contact with the police in this regard. Imam was satisfied. Paddy was still with him and he was sitting in the living room watching the news about the situation in the Congo on TV. It is also mentioned that there is a video of this interview. The bar was going on in which Ibaka repeatedly talked about Salah in good words and mentioned the subsequent threats to him and his life. After talking to Salah, Imam's problem was over. She started lifting her head once more. He was in trouble, but he was not aware of it. Imam felt his feelings. She didn't want to sit there and ask him questions on the phone. She sat in front of him and asked him, "What did you want to do with it?" "Is happening, Mimi." Gabriel addressed him. "Who wants to kill Papa?" She was frozen on his question. Imam was watching TV and did not know that he is also sitting with her. He is watching and hearing everything. He had the same mind as his father. Imam and Salah used to be very careful in their conversation in front of him. Imam turned off the TV. She wanted to avoid it now. "And quote, no one wants to kill your father, and quote," he said, holding Jibril with him. "And quote, Allah is protecting your father and all of us. And quote," she said touchingly. "Why didn't Allah protect Peter Ibaka?" Imam would be amazing. Gabriel's questions would always be answered by him. He would not argue, he would only ask. He would think and be silent when he heard the answer. But Imam could not understand that his answer was not. Did you convince him? No. He was a child. That was his feeling. But he didn't think that much about his mother and father. He never asked them, "Look how your little brother looks on you." Mom tried to change the subject. He answered, "It's not what you think it is." Imam tried to please him. "I don't think so. Maybe." Gabriel didn't like this analogy of mine. "How is your friend?" Imam asked with interest. "He has a mustache. Not mine." Imam laughed incoherently. He kept saying, seeing the tears on Hamin's face and upper lip, "It seems to be my way." Anay informed Imam in a loud voice. She was laughing at Anay's soft voice. She was careful that the sleeping brothers did not wake up. Waiting for the father's arrival, that the CIA tried to deliver the baby 3 weeks ago prematurely due to the effects of the drug. If Muhammad Hayman Iskander had been introduced, he would have prevented this birth for at least 300 years. Unaware of the future, Imam was watching him sleeping with great love. He was snoring after 2 days. Does he snore? Jibril looked at the mother in disbelief, noticing her snoring. Imam was surprised at his observations. She thought for the first time about giving Gabriel's feelings. No. He's just breathing deeply. "Mummy, is this your last baby?" The question was direct and meant seriously. Ima didn't know if she was laughing or embarrassed. Pedi was laughing. "Yes, sweetheart, this is the last baby," she comforted Jibril. "We have 2 brothers and 1 sister." Gabriel touched the angel and counted. "Yes." The Imam convinced him by kissing him. He didn't know that another girl was in his house. Concubine Ghulam Farad alias Cheney. ******. To be continued.